3. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardin Ellis, and today I am joined via Zoom by a killer cast of great people. Actually, I just realized here that I have to put you guys on the gallery view because right now it's just Rachel. You look great, Rachel, but you're not the only one here. All right, so I am joined by a killer cast of people here. We got Luke Hansen from Ward Radio News. We also got Benjamin Kaiser, who's been our eyes and our ears on the ground out there in Michigan, as well as Rachel from Women in and Priesthood. And I got to tell you guys, the thesis of this episode is simple. I think a lot of Mormons got a very, very rude awakening today. A very rude awakening. I think we're going to go over some commentary by Austin Baird. We're going to go over some commentary from a lot of people, but I think there's been kind of this thought in Mormonism that we're kind of like Protestantism 2.0. And if we just dedicate a little bit harder to building just a few more bridges with the right people and vocally support TPUSA enough, or else our local homeless shelter sponsored by the evangelicals, or else our local chapel union sponsored by X, Y, or Z group, that maybe if we can just get a little bit louder and a little bit harder and a little bit more dedicated, that they're going to love us. But we forget that they hate us too. And I got in a lot of trouble. I'm just going to start out by playing one Instagram clip, and I'm not here to say, oh, I told you so, but I do want to talk about the reason why I say some things like I say, okay? I got in a lot of trouble for this clip that I'm about to play us right now, but I'm unfortunately, I don't want to say I told you so, because that never does anything positive, but I do want to say hopefully we reassess how we move forward as a people in light of recent events. Here's the clip. I'm going to play it super fast. I'm going to say something and I want to get your guys' reaction. So here we go. I sometimes feel really uncomfortable. I hate woke. It's horribly destructive and everything. But I got to tell you, when you hear guys like Andrew Wilson talking the way they do about members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, aka Mormons, and you see how quickly the right wing has turned anti-Semitic, just as, if not more anti-Semitic than the left, I think there's some serious canaries in the coal mine. The way that you see people treating Jews is oftentimes a precedent for how they'll treat Mormons. And I got to tell you, they're starting to behave in a way that I think Mormons will beg to get woke back when they see how Protestant, especially Protestant evangelicals, will treat us if they get what they want politically. Okay, so I got in a lot of trouble. For saying that. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, would we not beg to get woke back? What was worse, being kicked out of your chapels and having to wear for 18 months and having to wear masks, or a dude going into a chapel with an AR-15 feeling justified that we're not Christians? And then not having a society that is literally thinking that you're innocent and, well, did they deserve it? Like, I don't know. I don't know which is worse, but I kind of feel like a lot of members of the church today, especially, a lot of bubbles were burst and a lot of people realized, holy crap. Like Andrew Schultz said, he never believed the anti-Semitic stories his grandpa used to tell him. This is something that we got over. The West overcame it. Then October 7th happened and he realized, oh my gosh, they really do hate us for simple, I don't know what the Jewish term is. It's like sinat shatim, means like just hate for hate's sake or hate for mere existence, that they hate us too. So Luke's got a role here to play. He's an apologist for the right-wing establishment in North America, and he's going to argue the case of TPUSA. No, I'm just kidding. And Rachel and Ben, just where do I go wrong, guys? Monologue's over. Where do I go wrong?
Yeah, I'll take you up on that.
Okay.
I would prefer having this instead of woke, because you do see this split online, and I've put some stuff in the chat that's not quite all the way related, but you're seeing this divergence of people like, what the heck is going on? Gerald actually from the Steven Crowder show posted something along these lines of like, you guys, maybe this week is not the week to talk about your very, very strong belief that Mormons aren't Christians. And then, of course, you have people on the other side like Mark Driscoll that have been doubling down and apparently have used this opportunity to try and sell a book, which seems to thankfully be backfiring for him. So if somebody is coming out with a biblical case of like, here's why Mormons are absolutely awful, at least we have some sort of fundamental basis that we're working off of the Bible, God, all that kind of stuff. When somebody just starts saying, oh yeah, boys can be girls, and if you disagree with me, you're hateful, I don't know what to do with that. Like we are in completely separate worlds. So there is an argument to be made that the people closer to you are kind of the more dangerous ones. You know, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. But I would choose this over woke every
Okay.
day.
Don't you feel though a lot of bubbles have burst today? Ben, I'm curious. What's your take?
Yeah, I really do. Mine was in a little way, I will say that, because and this is no different from, I mean, think of how many times when you get groups together, what do? You put your differences aside, but that doesn't mean they're resolved. That doesn't mean that they've gone away. And that certainly doesn't mean that that's going to last forever. You can think of our relationship with the Soviet Union during World War II, which a lot of people still contest to this day because of their evil. It was an alliance of necessity, let's call it. And I mean, what about the American colonies during the Revolutionary War or the Civil War? There was many differences of opinions that again went unresolved and led to different conflicts. So coming together, I think there was a big moment after Charlie Kirk, and that I think was yeah, I do think a lot of bubbles were burst today in that regard, because here again we have people that we've come together. We're all Christians, and we're all in the same direction. And all of a sudden, you find out that you kind of look around, and kind of seems like there's a circle around Mormons right now.
Kind of seems like they're a circle. Okay, well, Rachel, say what you want to say, and then I'm going to pull up some
Yeah, no,
clips
I
here.
actually, I mean, I actually do agree that I would prefer to have this, and one of the reasons for it is that I think there's been a trend in the last 10 years, 9 years, 8 years of this kind of like, we want to be, please like us, like, please accept us. We're just like you. And when you're trying to be accepted by like a larger group, you tend to blend in and devalue the things that make you stand out. So there's just been this, only talk about Jesus, only Jesus, only Jesus. And the reality is, so both my parents are converts, and I've heard their conversion stories 1,000 times. And I feel like there's, by doing that, we are kind of excuse, like we're missing all the amazing things that make our religion so cool. Like, we have a man that saw that God has a physical body, and we believe in Heavenly Mother. And, like, I think the restoration of so this is one thing that I think is an example of that, is the first discussion used to be Joseph Smith in the First Division, and now it's Jesus Christ. And so I just am excited that there's this element of like, oh, cool, you don't accept us anyway. Great. We're just not going to hide our light under a bushel anymore. We're going to celebrate what makes our religion so amazing, which is probably appealing to many people. So that's what I feel like. I'm just like, okay, they're not going to accept us no matter what we do. Let's celebrate what makes us unique,
Oh,
as opposed to just,
yeah, but you don't think? Okay, I'm really curious. You guys are super demure about this, all right, or super relaxed about this. But I've been screaming this from the rooftops. You don't think a lot was laid bare today? Like, I think a lot
Today specifically?
Yeah, I think a lot of members of the church, thought that we were more accepted by our society and by other fellow
I
Christians.
had no idea. I will be honest. Like, I texted my sister on Monday, and it's because we grew up. I said, "Is it because we grew up in New England where everyone's an atheist? We didn't grow up around other Christians, so we couldn't be oppressed." I said I had no idea other Christians hate us, like hate. I had no idea.
So what
Totally
gave it away?
naive.
What gave it away for you?
Oh, just reading the really, like, the really inhumane comments online. You know what? There's something very disturbing when you hear women. It's like when you hear women straight face justify abortion to you, you're like, there's something very like disquieting about this. Like, you're supposed to have maternal energy, and like you're supposed to kind of be like the North Star of society and culture, like mothers and women. So when you hear like homemakers on TikTok or Instagram being like angry at Mormons on Sunday, like, and I should let Ben speak because he's actually going through it a lot more. There's something very disquieting about that. Like that's such little compassion in a moment of crisis that you have to call it a kind of hatred or fear.
Okay, awesome. And then Ben, we were talking before the show. Like, do you feel today was a turn? I feel like so many Mormons on social media today just finally realized, holy smoke, like a lot of people that I thought were allies, now that there's no mutual left wing to fight per se or something, the divisions are laid bare, and no, you're not one of us. Get the heck out of here. We don't want you here. Mormons aren't even Christian. And I think this does not bode very well, guys. I think this does not bode very well. The fact that the North American, so I just text, I'll read some texts that I put out today. There's another influencer who's a Christian who's going to remain completely nameless. You know what I'm saying? But I basically texted him today because it kind of blew my mind, all the rhetoric I saw online, and I'm going to show it off. And I said, you know what, dude, like, check out Mark Driscoll, for example. Actually, I might as well put on the screen, receipts or it didn't happen, pics or it didn't happen, right? So the day of, I'm putting this up on the screen. This is what I tweeted out this morning. I wrote, holy crap. The week 10 Latter-day Saint Christians were shot by an anti-Mormon, are raising funds for the deceased loved ones and even the shooter's family. Pastor Mark Driscoll and his team are researching and publishing a new anti-Mormon book to make sure the world knows they're not Christian and a dangerous demonic cult. Insane. This is one of the most influential North American pastors, even appearing at TPUSA even this week. And all the other most influential pastors refused to denounce this behavior. This is North American, quote, Christianity on full display, and it's astonishing. And then here is an ebook titled, Are Mormons Christian? And it's literally Mike Driscoll starting out with how we are a demonic cult, and all of the rhetoric that he supposedly said is what got Charlie Kirk shot on the left, but now in my mind is no different between what got all of my fellow Mormons shot in Michigan, but on the right. And the absolute utter lack of mainstream, pastors. There's a lot of people in the pews that didn't feel comfortable with it, but there's no major organizations coming out and saying, oh, no, hold on a second. This isn't Christianity. So I texted one of my friends, right? And he's got a pretty big podcast. Sometimes, very influential. There's a lot of crossover between him and members, right?
Is this the same one as before, or is this a new guy?
I don't know. I'm not saying his name, so I'll have to tell you a little bit later, right? But
okay.
Anyway, what I said was, I don't know how to put this up so that all you guys can see this at once while we're all talking. Got the gallery view right here for you. So he literally said, because I'm getting to know him a little bit better, he said, I know we don't know each other well, but I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time, and I hope you would know I would never do something like this. And yes, we have issues in the evangelical Mormon church, but I think you spend a lot of time, focusing with anti-Mormons and so on and so forth. And he says, Mark Driscoll is not wildly respected in a lot of evangelical American Christian circles and is perceived as a rigid bully. And I'd like to think that's true. However, here's the problem. He's top 3 in clicks and views on Instagram. And on YouTube, I'd say he's easily top 10 pastor. Easily top 10. Right up there with Apologia, Mike Winger, reruns of Billy Graham on some of those big channels that get millions of views and so on and so forth. He's easily top 10. So large, he's given a first row seat to Charlie Kirk's funeral and invited to speak on day 3? He's batting cleanup on day 3 or 4 of the Charlie Kirk program when it re-airs again. All the measurable quantifiers do not say that he's just some fringe rigid bully, but tacitly and quietly approved of by everybody else around because nobody wants to denounce what he's doing. And I think that is actually what is bursting a lot of bubbles, and a lot of members are realizing, holy crap, they hate us too. And if they could provide enough animus that a mentally ill person who we know followed Mark Driscoll, I saw the screenshots myself, unless somebody AI'd him, all right, and before they shut down the guy's Facebook post, he somehow, albeit it could be the most minor influence possible, all right? But there's something about our society and how it allows anti-Mormon rhetoric to spread faster than anti-Semitic rhetoric or anti-racial rhetoric, that the mentally ill, those with PTSD, those with amphetamine addictions, can feel justified in gravitating towards it enough that they'll grab a gun and use it. And that is what is scary, and I think a lot of members are realizing. Rachel?
Do you think the part of the reason for that is that fact that we kind of don't take it seriously and we tolerate it and we're like, well, yeah, people hate us because we have such a history of that, like the extermination order. Like do you guys know who Cenk Uygur is? Like he's the Young Turks. He's like a liberal kind of think tank.
People used to call him Chunky Yogurt.
And he knows very little about Mormonism because his reaction to the shooting was to call out political violence or religious violence of any kind. But his phrase he said was, "Who shoots Mormons?" And because for him, in the modern era, the only Mormons he knows are so nice. And he's like, they're just the nicest people. Like, who would shoot them? And I think we've gotten so, I think Joseph Smith was brokenhearted that the American experiment to some extent failed to protect his people and protect religious liberty. And I think the trauma of us having to flee to the West, we just kind of accepted no one's going to defend us. We're going to have to defend ourselves. But I think that just reading some of the comments too, like the more incensed we can get, and this is an interesting thing too, the FBI has still labeled this a, quote, targeted attack as opposed to a hate crime. Why is it not categorized as a hate crime? Like, we should be demanding this. And I think that we are allowed to get a little more loud about this and to call out the rhetoric. Now, I've seen non-religious people doing that a lot online, saying like this rhetoric is what caused the shooting in the first place. So
it has been interesting to see the religious people talk about this because they kind of paint it as like, oh, violence is really bad, hate towards religion is really bad. It kind of seems like this guy had animosity towards Mormonism. That's kind of weird. And then they move on.
yeah,
And it's like, hold on. Like, we make a big deal out of it when it's somebody politically motivated or something. I don't think we should just kind of move on. Maybe because I think they're oblivious, thankfully. It only lives in certain parts of the internet, even though they're kind of large. But this anti-Mormonism, like the guy who did the interview, who had tracked into this guy, canvassed into this guy a couple days before the attack. And in one of the interviews he gave, he said that, oh yeah, the things the guy was saying, like, it didn't flag to me as something violent because it just sounded like your standard anti-Mormon talking points out of Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. No, I think YouTube. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And that's a little scary. I'm not saying that everybody is fomenting violence or people that listen to that stuff are on the brink of becoming violent. He obviously had deep problems. But to have somebody who's just kind of spouting the standard anti-Mormon talking points and then goes and does something like this, like, I think that should be pinging on people's radar more than it is. And hopefully we don't need something like this to happen again to wake people up to the level that this stuff is at. One brief story. A little over a year ago, Jacob Hansen went and debated Trent Horn in person with Matt Fradd. And we had dinner with him. I went with Jacob Hansen. And we had dinner with Trent Horn the night before. And we were talking about this anti-Mormon stuff. He actually hadn't really heard of it except for John DeLynn, I think. He like slightly rang a bell for him. And I asked him, like, Trent, are there channels that are 100% dedicated to anti-Catholicism? You know, Catholicism, it's had some of its own problems, its own scandals. It's way bigger than us. Surely there are YouTube channels out there 100% dedicated to anti-Catholicism. Nope. He almost didn't even understand the question I was asking him. He's like, well, there's pastors that will put out episode. I'm like, no. I'm talking about like the entire 300,000 subscriber channel. The entire thing is dedicated to anti-Catholicism. Does that exist? And he's like, no. Like we have like 6 of those in Mormonism. It's ridiculous. There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's an entire pipeline, dude. And so here's my question, man. I think this does not bode well for Mormonism at all. Luke, you have been on my channel. How many times have I ad nauseum from the rooftops said, we are neglecting chapel security to such a degree that it is going to take a horrible active shooter event before these people take it seriously, because the orthodox wisdom of neoconservatism and neoliberalism saying, well, we declared it a gun-free zone is an absolute failure, but it hasn't happened to us yet. And they're just ignoring this. They're not listening. It's going to take something horrible happening to us before they take it seriously. How many times have you heard me say that on this program?
You've said it a couple times.
Yeah.
That I recall.
Yeah, more than a couple times. Well, now we've already gotten there. We've already gotten to Cardin having said this for years. Oh crap, it happened. The reason why I think that this does not bode well for us, what we're seeing happening today, is because members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints don't realize we're not there's 2 teams in America. There's the secular left and then there's the Christian right. Okay? And oftentimes we think that we're part of that Christian right, but we're not really, actually, because they hate us too. We've confused ourselves for a really long time because in our entire adult years, as the Christian right has been fighting the secular left the secular left got really, really big in the 60s, but the Christian right was huge in the 50s with McCarthyism. And as they were going back and forth with each other, we're this flea of only 3 or 4 million people in America on the back of the Christian right and the secular left. And as these big dogs fight it out, sometimes this little chihuahua of Mormonism that's standing on the sidelines and yapping at the one we don't like, sometimes we're fooled into thinking that, we actually are somehow winning, or the other big dog likes us, or that the enemy of our enemy is our friend. But we don't realize they're not. And this does not bode well for us. And I'm going to say why. Christian nationalism, which is a thing, and I think we all owe Kwaku a little bit of an apology. I think the pejorative of white Christian nationalism is oftentimes thrown around by people on the left as a pejorative that doesn't exist. But Christian nationalism is a thing. And there are people like Mark Driscoll and Doug Williams and these Doug Wilson and these very famous pastors who do indeed push it. And I'm not saying that Doug Wilson is guilty by association. But when these people subjected to interviews that they approve and are on their own channels talk about, yes, we need to make America a Christian nation, people forget Mormonism does very well in liberal societies, because the chaos liberalism creates sometimes actually makes it so that our organizational body looks a little bit appealing to the average person. But also, if given the power, many of these Christian nationalists have stated they want this to be a Christian nation. And guess what? Mormons aren't. Christian.
According to a lot of people.
You think as they're purging the Muslims and eliminating gay marriage and deciding that, out with the undocumented and so on and so forth, that they're not just going to put Mormons into that you think they're just going to stop there, that they love us? I mean, when you look at the posts that have come out today, it is absolutely insane to see laid bare what these people actually think about us. We have a right-wing CES letter now. Everybody worshipped Charlie Kirk in Mormonism. I love Charlie Kirk. I was deeply affected by his assassination. Why? Well, actually, because he was MAGA. And MAGA is kind of an eclectic bunch of dudes. It's Elon Musk, it's RFK, it's Tim Pool. All of them used to be Democrats. It's Tulsi Gabbard, a candidacy from the DNC of only 3 years ago. And these people can talk and can debate and have podcasts. And Charlie Cook will go out to universities and then just speak his mind, prove me wrong, so on and so forth. And again, he was separate from these 2 dueling dogs in American society. But now that he was shot, Now that he is gone, TPUSA has fallen back to who?
Yeah.
The Protestant evangelical right.
Yeah.
And they're not like Charlie Cook, who gets up there and says, I'm not one of those guys that hates on Mormons. I love Mormons. In fact, I think you need to get your mojo back. You have more kids than you can afford. It's a beautiful thing. He's not like Donald Trump, who's like, today this is an assault on Christianity, because he recognizes that we are Christians. No, we are back to all these posts, and I'll put them up on the screen. But like literally, we have people. What's the one that showed up in the Discord that I thought was so insane? I'm going to put this one up on the screen. I saw this one posted on 3 different forums today, and I'll just read it out loud so you guys can see it. But the amount of actual Christians, this is from Charismatic Calvinist, the amount of actual Christians lecturing me and telling me this is a time to unite with Mormons, not divide, further reaffirms the fact that the evangelical church is full of well-intentioned, uncatechized idiots and should be Mormons are our co-belligerents in select political battles. They are not our allies, and I shall not preach unity with a demon, ever, under any circumstances, no matter how sad the news is. If revival does not bring the diminishing and or erasure of that Masonic cult, then it's not revival. Mormons have no place in a future Christian nation.
Well, unless that guy changes his ways, he's bound to have a very disappointing life as Mormonism continues to spread and grow across the world, not just the nation.
Okay.
But
I get that. Let me just show one other, though.
Mm-hmm.
I go to X, and you think, hey, is this just one fringy guy? Is this just one fringy guy who's just, saying a bunch of cringe and shame on him? Could be, okay? Except for then, all right, you see Mark Driscoll posting these pictures and then people reacting to it, him literally just using the Book of Mormon as a doorstop. And I actually got the screenshots here. The guy didn't end up erasing them, which totally blew my mind. But then you get this John Elder guy who literally says, we've only gotten started. So I actually said on X, and I'm sorry, I'm veering verbose here just because I actually had to make it to my profile and pull up the original post right here. But as I wrote on X, I said, here it is finally. I said, sorry about that. I lament the Christian right wing publishing another anti-Mormon book, The Literal Week, a shooter kills 10 members of the Mormon church. And this guy says, quote, we are just getting started. If the Mormon extermination order were signed today, it makes me think how many of these guys would have signed it. And it's this John Elder guy. Usually when I highlight that, people will sometimes come back and say, oh, whoops, I, spoke out of turn. No, this dude leans into the meme saying, no matter how sad it is, you need to repent. You're going to hell. You are not Christian. And it finally winds up with him. And I just took the screenshot. Like, I could not believe that I saw it. But he literally says, the day after a shooting, we actually carry a Bible in our left hand and a 9mm in our right. Extra ammo and Bible tracts are in our belt. Like, these people are talking about erasure the day that there's been a shooting. They're talking about gun-toting literally 9mm as they erase the Masonic cult from North America. Like, at what point, when Michael Knowles says, all I do is take Antifa seriously using the words that they speak, like at what point are we going to also take the Christian nationalist right seriously using only the words that they speak? That these people hate us, and they've proven to generate an animus towards us that right now is only taking the mentally ill. But there's a thin veneer of civilization that keeps them from going further. I'm not convinced they wouldn't do it without that thin veneer.
Well, and there's like a low bar for, I'm convinced that like Sola Scriptura has like cooked half their brains. So there's not like a lot of like logical thinking outside the box there. So it's interesting to me when you look at the views that they might have about Mormons, it's so closely like is linked to illogical myth that it makes sense that they would jump to these irrational conclusions to, shun someone in their community or be cruel to someone in their homeschool group. And And you see these kinds of things happening. And I think the best place online is just we have to say that what caused this shooting is the rhetoric. The rhetoric online caused this. And we have to, and you know what is interesting is non-LDS people are doing this. People who are like, atheists or just neutral parties watching the evangelicals kind of show themselves do not like it. They're like, this is gross. Who are these Christian people that are being cruel to a group of people that consider themselves Christian? I'll take them at their word.
Yeah.
You saw Jonah Goldberg. Oh gosh, where does he write? Conservative
The Dispatch. It's actually
commentator.
one of the links
The
that I
Dispatch.
have.
There
Yeah.
we go. Okay, yeah. That's exactly what he was saying in a piece that he put out today, is that anti-Mormonism is sort of like this fundamental bigotry because it's based purely on like those people think weird things. And like that's it. They don't even try to do something with like that they do with the Jews where they say, "Oh, they use the blood of children for their Passover bread meal or something like that." No, it's just like, no, they think Jesus and Satan are brothers, therefore got to put the 9mm in the belt when I go preach to them. Like, what the heck is going on here?
It's like, I guess what's frustrating too is it's like, how do you have a conversation with people this illogical or dumb?
Well, you
I'm like, how
can't.
do you have I'm sorry,
Exactly.
I cannot
Well,
approach a conversation with you in good faith because I don't trust that you have the intellect to absorb it. That's probably a little less.
well, no. Listen, if you come from a place of irrationality or not reason, you can't. Their basis, their premise is not based in reason. So you can't reason your way out of that. And when we're talking about something like all of this, the Book of Mormon is 4 hour day. Look what happened. They could not abide that Nephi left and just decided to start their own civilization and live peaceably and happy. They followed them. And then that conflict was repeated over and over throughout the entirety of the Book of Mormon. They can't let it alone. We just want our civilization. We just want to be peaceful. Look what happened to the Meridian Saints. It just keeps happening over and over and over again. So when you look at, oh, because it's a nice sentiment, it really is. And this is the messaging, Rachel. I love what you said at the beginning of the podcast. I've been screaming that for a long time now. I've said it in a few other podcasts. The church has a messaging issue, this hyper fixation on this hippie Sermon on the Mount Jesus that all we want to do is talk about. It's in our ward council meetings, it's in all of our presidency meetings. It makes me want to slap my head against the wall because this is the fruits of that. And it's not that those things aren't true, but what is unfortunately true is that these types of people have not gone away. And again, we can, tag in and we can assist in trying to help cultivate a environment in our country that's, let's say, amicable to a lot of our economic, political, and social purviews, and a lot of that is based on our doctrine. But at the end of the day, and this is what we're seeing, is that they cannot abide. And you can say all day, okay, fine, you're not Christian, just deal with it. Yeah, of course. Listen, we are different and we are going to embrace that. Again, call back to what Rachel said earlier. I talk about it all the time. We have so many things to talk about. That's why sometimes I'll sit in lessons and go, I think you missed the whole point and such a good opportunity here to actually, it doesn't matter if there's investigators or not. And this is why the call online today. So in case anyone's wondering, it's all the things we were talking about with Mark Driscoll and these other people, but there was a huge call of increase of our consecration and discipleship today, not just to go, okay, well, I'm going to love even harder. It's a wake up call, not that, hey, we didn't think that this was a possibility. We know our church history. We didn't think it was gone. We know our church history and we know the revelations and prophecies to come. What it is, though, is that there's a line of demarcation that has just been drawn. And some people, you can say, well, I'm not online very often. It doesn't mean it wasn't drawn, and it doesn't mean you're not affected by it. And we know that there's no more fence sitting. I said on a podcast before, there's no more coasting. That time is over, and here we are. The line is drawn so thickly. You cannot be on one side or the other. And people love to throw around, no man can serve two masters. Well, you're about to see just how true that is in the coming days.
Okay. Luke, no, you say. Talk, Luke.
I love what Rachel and Benjamin. Do you say Benjamin or Ben?
Whatever you want, but I go by Ben
Okay.
usually.
Okay, I'll say Ben. Where Rachel and Ben were saying, I think the thing to stress is the plan of salvation. Like, because sometimes we'll think, oh yeah, Christians and us, we're pretty similar. Book of Mormon and New Testament, they teach about the same thing. Really, the three kingdoms is the only thing that's different in the temple stuff. It's like, hold on, hold on. Let's look at the plan of salvation and how beautiful this thing is. We eternally exist. And we are the same species as God. And he brought us into a parent child relationship with himself and presented us with a plan, which is the only way following eternal law, like we read in 2 Nephi 2, opposition in all things, presented a plan whereby we would first gain the body and then second get the testing state necessary to become like him, not a get your own planet type of gig. He wasn't like a used car salesman, but to enjoy the type of love that he enjoys and doing that in relationship with each other. So we come to Earth. The purpose of Earth is for us to grow and develop. President Oakes gave a landmark talk that challenged to become back in like 2008 or so. That's the purpose of life. And as you go through that, one of the key things that you need to do is to enter into a paired relationship, a complementary relationship with somebody else in the temple, man to woman, woman to man, as a marriage, and then participate in what God participates in by having your own children and bringing them up in the gospel. And then when you die, people who didn't get the opportunity are in the spirit world, they can have the gospel taught to them. The ordinances can be performed for them on earth. And then nearly every single child of God, no matter what they did in life, almost, will enter into a kingdom of glory, heaven, in one sense. But it's tiered based on who you chose to become in your life and the spirit world to an extent. But those who chose the highest, those who fully accepted the atonement of Jesus Christ, will enter into the celestial kingdom, eternally married to their companion, and will participate in the type of life that God participates in eventually. That's the plan of salvation, and almost every single point of that plan differs dramatically from the typical Christian teaching. And it's beautiful. It answers so many questions, the problem of evil being one of the big ones, about like, what's the purpose of life? Why is there evil? Why exactly am I here on earth? Why didn't God just keep everything in the Garden of Eden? Like, everything locks into place and makes sense and fits within this narrative. And it's basically completely missing from Christianity. You go back to the early church fathers, you
Yeah.
can find some of
Yeah.
that stuff there. Yeah. But Christianity today, dramatically different. And we exist in narratives. So the restoration narrative, the early church history narrative is very important to see where we came from in a direct sense. But then the plan of salvation is the overarching narrative that we live within that the rest of Christianity doesn't, at least not fully. And I think we should be leaning into that and maybe having a little more plan of salvation discussion in our classes rather than a hippie Jesus, as you said, Ben.
Well, where does the plan of salvation come from?
Uh, Meaning, how did it get revealed to us, or where does it come from in like the metaphysical ultimate sense?
Well, let's instead of asking questions, Joseph Smith is the linchpin here.
Yeah.
100%. This is the hang up now. This is going to be a hang up in the next life. And these groups, Amulek teaches this. The spirit that you have here on earth follows you, or the attitude follows you to the next life. So there's going to be the different sects of Christianity in the spirit world, still having it out, still thinking that they're right. This is why there's such a big missionary effort in the next life. This is why we do our temple work and genealogy. This is why we pray for those on the other side of the veil to gather Israel as well as this side. This whole thing here in modern day for this dispensation hinges entirely on Joseph Smith. Without a testimony of Joseph Smith, you really don't have a leg to stand on. Meaning that I grew up in the church, and it, like every other youth, there comes a time where you can no longer lean on other people's testimony, whether it's your parents, your friends, or those that you look up to in the church. At some point, you have to step up and be a man or a woman, and you have to discover and find that testimony, not only of Jesus Christ, not only of the gospel, but of Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon. And this is where everybody trips up that can't accept. You can have ideas about doctrine, you can have ideas, because there's a lot of people that I meet that we talk about ideas. I don't even mention what denomination I am or that I'm LDS. There's a lot of common ground. There's a lot of agreements. But the second they find out that I'm LDS, what's the problem? Joseph Smith is the problem, the prophet of the restoration.
Okay. So, I heard you taking a breath, Rachel. Talk.
Yeah, I was coming back to when you're talking about the plan of salvation, Luke. I think one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately is, especially like from a female perspective in the gospel, how so Elder Oaks has a quote in a talk about the apostasy that I think encapsulates so much of the plan of salvation. He says, our theology begins with heavenly parents. Our greatest aspiration is to become like them. And when you look at the kind of gender confusion going on in our world right now, we have actual doctrine that is deep enough to ground us into even an identity that is an eternal gender identity. And I think it's interesting that when you look at all of the post-Nicene Creed Protestant and Christian sects, they have eliminated the existence of Heavenly Mother, and they've eliminated the necessity of posterity, and that God is a God of posterity. And so it puts this, right? It kind of changes the way that we live our lives. And I was shocked when I looked at Pew Research Institute and their religious landscape study. I was shocked at how high the divorce rates and how low the fertility rates are among the Protestant Christian world. Like they're really low. Really high. Divorce is a chronic issue there. Fertility is a very low. It's pretty, like I would say it's like barely 2 kids, and they're not even getting married at high levels. And so I think it's interesting how our doctrine is actually explaining our ongoing behavior of pretty high marital success rates. We still are having kids. Maybe you can make the argument we're having less than we used to. We're still growing. And I think that's a testament to like our doctrine is so deep and meaningful and drives the way that we live.
Well, it's shocking because if you look at what happened right after the Nicene Council, what happened? We have an Arian schism, we have the Chaldean split, we have another schism, which is basically Catholicism versus Orthodox Catholicism. Then we have the Lutherans, we have the Calvinists. All throughout these thousands of years, we're so desperate need of a reformation, and when it happens, it's so comparatively different from what has been it's almost like the word game where you played in elementary school. It's a silly example, but you say a sentence, and by the time it gets around, and it's a loose example, but that's exactly what happened. Things were being translated over and over. You're losing things. Things were deliberately taken out, hidden. That's why we have apocryphal texts. And certainly we have a ton of unrevealed scripture just on our end as well. We have 2/3 of a record that is still sealed. A lot of John's record for Revelations is yet to come forth. We have the brass plates yet. We have a ton of unrevealed scripture, let alone all the stuff that was retranslated and pushed and pulled and had conversations. Imagine if we sat down in this room and just went over the Book of Mormon over a course of years and decided what we were going to change a word here,
Yeah.
change a word. I mean,
Good point.
and so when you really look at how the Bible was compiled and what these early Christians did with it, I mean, it'll make your head spin. There's more books and volumes. You couldn't spend a lifetime reading and analyzing. It's so difficult to get a grasp on. But yet people will step up. They'll be born today and say, hey, I have everything right here. The restoration gives us a clear path, a direct line straight to heaven. And it's such a shame that there's such vitriolic hate for people that just want to follow Jesus Christ, that just want to aim at the highest possible good and reach our divine potential. And they can't abide that.
Yeah, it's almost like as members of the church, far too often we try and walk back Joseph Smith saying, oh, well, he told me the creeds were an abomination, forgetting A, that was God talking, okay, and B, like, oh, Joseph Smith was being kind of mean because actually they're not. No, dude, like this apparently is the root of the problem. And it's the basis upon which they literally say things just like this. If revival does not bring the diminishing and or erasure of that Masonic cult, then it's not revival. Mormons have no place in a future Christian nation. We need erasure. Like this, I look at this and I think, okay, I'm going to get to some super chats. We're going to have to pause for some super chats here really fast. But I want you guys to be thinking as we're talking about super chats, like what does this convert into action for our members? Okay, because the whole premise of this podcast is that I think a lot of people were under the false premise for a long time that we're kind of conservative. The average ward, I'd say, if you, at least in the Pacific, at least out in the West, I think the average ward, if you kind of divided them up politically, would probably be at least 60-40, generally Republican v. Democrat. And I think the average people outside of maybe, the northeastern states or some certain urban precincts, I think the average congregation was 70-30, 60-40, self-reported conservative over liberal. And when asked, they would kind of assume that Mormonism was part of, quote, that team for so long and so hard that they'd forgotten that, no, we actually have to be our own team. We fought the woke cartoons with transgender characters on Disney and Netflix with Christians for so long that we just assumed that once that battle was won, that like, oh, well, they're going to love us on the Christian streaming channels. No, they don't. On the Christian streaming channels, they literally talk about how Mormonism is just all they're going to put out is cartoons about how Mormonism is a Masonic cult and not Christian. How is that any different than what we just fought? What we really need is to create our own culture, in my mind, and have BYU step up and have BYU TV step up and actually provide us content for our children that's neither woke Netflix, neither, I mean, I don't want to say Angel Studios. They seem to be playing nice right now. You know what I'm saying? But like, not Christian streaming, all right? But something that is our own. But we have divested so hard from our own culture creation recently that now it's like, where are Mormons to go? How ironic is that? I'm going to get clipped. Where will you go? But like as members, I feel like the first thing we have to do is realize nobody's coming to save us.
Yeah.
If this has proven anything, it's that nobody's coming to save us. You hated woke for so long, you thought the Christian right was coming to save you? No, they hate us too. Am I wrong?
I just feel like it's nice permission for us to like stop apologizing for how special we are. Like, I just like it.
So
I like
true.
that it's like, oh, okay, well, we're just going to give up that fight. We're going to be, we're going to talk about eternal life. We're going to talk about eternal marriage. We're going to talk about all the cool things we have. Oh, sorry,
and don't
guys.
back down from I say don't back down from the whole the creeds are an abomination thing, because if the creeds are the reason that you're thinking it's okay for violence against Mormons because they weren't Christians anyway, then not God bless these creeds, God damn them, because that's psychosis. Like Jesus was not with the Samaritan woman at the well thinking, if we iced her right now, would that just be good? One less Samaritan out there. At the end of the day, they're not real Jews anyway, right? Like, that's not what he was thinking. Like, I don't know. Like, am I the only guy thinking this? I don't know. Here,
Well,
The woman at the well. Yeah, go
ahead.
Ben.
No, you're good. I've talked enough. You're good.
The woman at the well is an interesting example because Jesus wasn't just like, hey, I'm Jesus, like I'm the Messiah, love me. He was kind of like, yeah, so your theology is kind of wrong here a little bit. You got the temple thing a little mixed up. But then of course the focus was brought back to who he was and his mission.
I tried
What was I
pulling
gonna
up
say after that?
I was gonna say that I tried pulling up the Dispatch. Do you have the Dispatch article? Would you like to comment on that just briefly before?
I remember, but I forget which one the Dispatch one is. Is that the Jonah Goldberg
There's the Jonah Goldberg one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you have a paragraph you want to read from that.
No, dude, they're trying to charge me $577 for the year. They say, yeah, look at this. They say Mormons and Muslims, oh my, hatred and bigotry are not okay. Insisting on cultural assimilation is. And then there's a great opening line. And then it's like, curious what's behind this line? Unlock for $1. When you click on it, it's like, do you want $577 a week? Billed is $300 per year. Get premium. You know what I mean? So anyway,
Hey, Daily Wire's cheaper. Just saying.
Oh gosh,
For all access.
jeez.
All right. I do think it's important to kind of keep things in perspective. And so if we look at that famous Pew study, The Cross, of everybody hating Latter-day Saints and Latter-day Saints loving everybody, Can you guess without looking at it? What is the point spread on the born again evangelicals' opinions of Mormons?
Oh, 10. I would
What's
just guess 10.
a negative 10?
Or I just,
The
yeah,
negative opinion?
yeah, sure.
You're pretty good. It's negative 12. So
Oh, shut up.
you're basically probably right within the margin of error.
Okay.
So if we assume that 100% of people answered, this would be like 56% say not a good opinion of Mormons, 44% positive opinion of Mormons. So there is still a pretty good chunk of them that are feeling pretty all right about us. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Although, of course, we love everybody and we love evangelicals. You want to know what the point spread for us on evangelicals is? Our approve, disapprove, like them, don't like them.
I think it just went down 10 points today. But previous to today, what was it previous today? Plus 20?
No, plus 43.
What?
Plus 43. Yeah.
Okay, is
So
that
that'd
out
be
of
like
pure...
a 72 like, and then math in my head dislike.
Now, is that
harder to
out
read
of
on screen.
ignorance or is that out of Christianity?
28%. No, I think that's out of Christianity. Because generally on the street, you'll have a couple, I had 2 or 3 at my high school that, needed to corner me after we'd studied calculus. There was one guy, he like drove me home and then he kind of kept me in the car afterwards. He wanted to be a pastor when he grew up.
Yeah.
And he was like, so Jesus and Satan brothers. And I'm like, bro, I'm tired. We just did calculus for 3 hours. I have seminary tomorrow morning. Like, come on, man. But the rest of them were pretty good. Like the other 50 Christians that I knew in high school got along well. What's interesting to me, and maybe you guys have thoughts on this, it's very interesting that this is like an evangelical thing. And when you think about it on like the base level, they seem like they should be the ones that are more ecumenical because they're very non-denominational. Hey, we're all Christians. We're all in the body of Christ. They don't got like this Catholic thing saying there's no salvation outside the Catholic Church or anything like that. But they're one of the most negative Christians towards us. Whereas the Catholics are the only surveyed religious group in the Pew study that was done recently that we've been referring to that has an overall positive opinion of the church. And then likewise, Catholics are some of the people we love the most. We have a 51-point spread in favor of the Catholics. So what exactly is making the Catholics kind of overall neutral on us, while the evangelicals, it's not severely negative, but fairly negative vibe coming from the evangelicals. It's kind of weird. Do you guys have
I
any
think it's
thoughts on that?
historic success of conversion in North America. I think that's what it is.
You have mentioned that a lot. I should have seen that one coming. Yeah.
Well, just
You
think
think that's
about
it?
it. You're used to being top dog. You're used to the one that gets... Bro, it's a whole business model, man. Do you know how many articles I've seen in Christian magazines like consoling older pastors about what do you do when your youth pastor leaves and starts his own church and takes half of your congregation with you because he was more charismatic than you? There's like support groups for this crap, man. And,
But we're so tiny. We're like 2% of the population.
Yes, but dude, it's 2% of the population that's actually donating like 80% of the tithing in some of these chapels. I mean, that's a total rough stat, but it's the 20-80 rule. And in any given city, there's only so many people generally that are religiously animated enough that they're going to go to church on Sunday. And if you don't have that mindset of abundance through Christ, you view it as a mindset of scarcity that, if there's only 100 people that will come to church on Sunday because they're active and they're self-proclaimed Christians, and I just lost 10 of them to the Mormon church, that's 10% of my income because I'm not a volunteer clergyman. I actually get paid out of this. So there's cash bias, there's tribalism, there's everything negative about the human experience that goes into North American evangelical Protestantism. And so you're in the 1840s, in the 1850s, a young man says, I just had a vision and God told me I shouldn't join any of the existing churches, but start my own. And this church is so good at providing community and so good at empowering the individual that now the lawyers and the priests and the scribes and the establishment of the North American Protestant church start seeing entire congregations convert at a time. Sidney Rigdon brought like what, 1,500 Campbellites with him at once? You know this stuff. Who,
Yeah, his congregation, yeah.
an entire, like, what do you do if you're balancing the books and you are the regional head where a major pastor that had 1,500 tithing paying members all of a sudden sends you a letter saying, dude, we're moving to this city called Zion with a church that seems to be closer to God than I've ever been in my life. Thanks, but no thanks. Adios. Do you know what kind of hit that is? And your church now cannot survive financially because 20% of your tithe payers just bailed. And now you're hearing that the missionaries that just took 1,500 from you are going to the 5 other cities in your precinct and in your area. You're really quickly going to grab the Bible and see, how do I stop these guys? What can I say? What do they say? They got a gold Bible? Gold plates? Okay. And behold, gold is bad. See, look, the Bible's like, that's literally what they did. And then these tropes just get recycled and recycled and recycled and recycled. And the stuff they're saying about us now is legit crazy. Like, I've heard every single weird anti-Semitic trope and conspiracy theory out there. Rachel, what were some of the videos you were talking about on Women in War
Rachel's
Radio?
gone.
Oh, she just bailed? Oh,
She's technical difficulties.
Yeah, I saw her camera.
I do
on.
have a question. I'm going to challenge this theory, though, with the data. The born-again evangelicals really like mainline Protestants.
Yeah.
They like fairly strongly Catholics. And then they dislike Muslims more than they dislike us. But mainline Protestants and Catholics also pull people out of their congregations, and they like them. And the Muslims, they have very little problem with people leaving them to go to the Muslims, but they dislike Muslims more than they dislike us.
Be honest. Be honest. As a North American, count the number of devout Muslim, mosque attending, active Muslim friends you have.
0.
Okay. I would venture to say most are that way. So their perception of what Muslims are is based largely off of what Fox News and Newsmax said post 9/11.
All right. So that's the Muslims. Why would they have super positive opinions of Catholics and mainline Protestants that are also competing with them for the parishioners?
Because they have not anathematized Lutheranism and Protestantism because they fall under this creedal umbrella.
Have you guys ever talked to these people before?
Oh, yeah. We've had pretty cool. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Lutherans are not half as toxic as North American evangelicals.
Well, what I'm saying is that what happens to, and it doesn't matter if you're Baptist, what happens if something is said or there's an offense taken? They just look for a new pastor, or the guy leaves, or this is just that's why I call him Pastor Mark Nehor on X, and I'll keep seriously. That's literally what it is. Like these people. And it's not all of them. There's plenty of really great people out there, but this is not an indictment or criticism, but most of the Christians that I know, there's many that are just twice a year Christians, Easter and Christmas, and they want to. I won't throw someone under the bus, but I dated this girl once, and they found out that I was LDS. They sat her down and they busted their Bible out. They had to blow the dust off it first. Let me show you really what's going on here. And she secretly filmed it, and she came to me with questions, and it was just pathetic. But this is the exact, and we've done the experiment. It's been done. A whole new civilization was set up, and this stuff was still introduced. And of course, it's from the devil. But obviously, we can't. Because remember that Sherem, Korihor, Nehor, they are all described as being learned. They were all described as being smart enough and a well enough orator or rhetorician to lead many hearts away, right? So we just don't want to say that there's any lack of accountability, saying it's just the devil. It's like I don't know that, and I actually don't really buy that. Like there has to be, I would say, some responsibility here. And so when the evangelicals or whoever stand up and say, "Yeah, you guys are in a cult. You guys are demons," the angel Moroni, he's a demon. Like and every this is just not only pride of your heart, but honestly, this is we're trying to be valiant disciples in the testimony of Christ. We were trying to be effective instruments in the hand of the Lord. But look what happened when Gideon withstood Nehor. He killed him.
Yeah.
Like I mean, that's when you and they tie their identities to it, and I don't know where it's necessarily rooted, but I do know one thing: when they were all confounded, what happened to each and every one of them? They all confessed, and they all didn't say I'm wrong. They said I lied. And you can say, well, that's because they were exposed to the truth. It's like, well, I'm sorry to say, but if you think that it's like that old joke where the lady's sitting on top of the house and everything's flooded, and then a boat drives up and it's like, hey, do you need some help? And she's like, no, God's going to save me. And then another boat, same thing, or like a helicopter comes, no, God's going to save me. And then she drowns. She gets up to heaven and she's like, God, why didn't you save me? He's like, I sent you two boats and a helicopter. Like, what are you talking about? It's the same thing. Like this, the Spirit gives opportunities even to wicked people to try to nudge them. I'll never forget. I was in church one day and a guy came in that I hadn't seen in over 10 years, and I'm like, holy crap, how are you? How's everything going? He said, I can't believe I'm here. I had a dream this week. And he describes this dream that basically a choice was laid in front of him, almost like the Matrix, the red pill or blue pill. But essentially, it's like your salvation or not. And he's like, I woke up in just a sweat, and he started coming to church. The Spirit will push these people. So there is a truthfulness that they are intentionally ignoring, that they're intentionally not curious about. They're so ingratiated in this. And yes, there's an element for a lot of these pastors and evangelicals. There's a monetary incentive. We know that there's certainly a way of life, right? That's their job. So it's just like if you have a career and there's whisperings that you might be let go, you all of a sudden you're standing up straight, you're dressed. I mean, like it's the same sort of thing. They don't want to lose what they have. And so you have this Nehorism that has infected almost virtually every non-denominational sect that's appealing to all. This is why their membership is interchangeable, because what's the core doctrine of Nehorism, right? Everyone's going to be saved. What was the core plan of Lucifer that was presented? Everyone's going to be saved no matter what. It takes the agency out of it. It takes the purpose of life out of it. It takes our divine potential out of it. And this is what is appealing to these lukewarm, I should be careful, cowards that are in immortality. Let's just say it.
Okay. So we got to read a couple of super chats here and keep going. You asked a very interesting question, which was Charlie Kirk's last question. In his interview with Tucker Carlson, like within the last 90 days of his life, he mentioned that his next project was, quote, how do you de-radicalize half of the country? And I think you're kind of asking that same question. It's like, what do you do with somebody when you literally post on X like, holy smoke, they just, shot 10 of us. We're grieving. Why are Christians coming out to say we're not Christians? And then a guy like John Elder says, we're only getting started. And then you come out and you're like, what? And he's like, I don't think you understand. We have nothing but love for our Mormon neighbors. We share biblical truth with them and pray for them. And we definitely warn them about hell. You don't know how to start when somebody, in the face of literally an active shooter killing multiple people in a different denomination, a different faith, like there's no basis to start. Like there's no humanity to start with, because it's been just overcome by Christianism and creedism, right? That's a radical. That's more radical than some communists that were willing to die for the USSR. So you have to ask yourself, how do you de-radicalize that? I respond to the guy and he's literally just doubling down. It's a demonic cult. How is this news to you? Millions of us evangelicals believe this. This is not news. Like, how do you de-radicalize that? There's no mechanism in American society for de-radicalization. There's prison if you do something bad, but the radical, like this is what I think is the radicalization that led to the shooter. And I'm going somewhere with this. He obviously had mental problems and he probably wanted to die. Death by cop is a legitimate way that people commit self-termination in this world. They get themselves into hopeless situations where they know there's going to be a shootout with law enforcement. And that's the way they decide they're going to go out. But now with online radicalization, they think at least I can go out in a blaze of glory, taking those that I hate with me. And that's what leads. That's the psychology, I am convinced, from where I am sitting. That's the psychology that led people like this shooter to act the way he did. And we have to ask ourselves as a society, okay, how do you stop that? Well, there's no precedent for active shooters in our society. There's precedent for evil. Okay. But we have to think, okay, we can't take away the guns. There's too many of them. They already exist. That argument's done with. We can't take away there's never going to be a theocracy, and there's never also going to be communism with no religion or whatever. So there's always going to be religions. How do we make it so that people can exist in a pluralist society without resorting to shoot each other? How do we de-radicalize them, right? The only answer I've ever come up from any of the ancient books or the holy books is in the Book of Mormon. When were Gadianton robbers ever convinced to no longer be murderous and not be Gadianton anymore? Ben?
They were forced.
Well, kind of. They were imprisoned and then taught the gospel. So they were imprisoned for state crimes and then taught the gospel and literally rehabilitated spiritually, so at least their humanity returned.
Well, some of them, but remember that they were made hidden in the societies. They could never fully drive them out. There was one time in the Book of Mormon where they said the ideology was buried and gone, but it still was resurrected later on. They're always going to some sort of capitulation just out of self-preservation. But make no mistake, it's still alive and well to this day.
Okay. Oh, Kwaku's jumping in the chat here. I'm going to let him in here for a second. I hope I don't regret this, Kwaku. No, I'm just kidding. So let me read a couple of super chats. But yeah, like I think, you know, I don't think it is hopeless. I think people can change, but they can only change through the gospel of Jesus Christ. But we cannot falter in our preaching of the gospel in our way, which I believe is Jesus Christ's way, which is stated in the Doctrine and Covenants, that it can only be done through persuasion, long suffering, brotherly kindness, so on and so forth. It's not going to be done by vilifying people on Twitter. It's not going to be done. It's going to be done literally, like Russell M. Nelson said, in the peacemaker's way. And it's annoying, just like Jesus Christ said in what is it, Matthew 5:22 or Matthew 8, where first you go to thy brother and then you go to your brother with a friend and then you bring the church with you. Like it, I think that's the only way out of this. And that's probably what compelled Dave Butler to start that GoFundMe for the shooter, which actually I think is a phenomenal and unbelievably spiritually advanced act of Christianity that is just incredible to behold. So we got to catch up on a bunch of super chats, and we're going to let Kwaku jump on in here. Super chat number 1 from Ethan. Sorry this took so long, guys. Temple prediction video coming up. Thank you very much, Ethan, for the super chat. Gosh, things have been overshadowed by the shooting, but we're going to see if we can't pull that off. Keatling Gully says, if you run the new Driscoll forwarded book, it's fully AI written. Is that true? Have you read it? Anybody read it yet?
No.
No?
Oh, no, I didn't read that thing.
Can't
No, but
comment.
that's actually a really good idea. Just use an AI detector.
Uh-huh.
I bet you find some.
Well, so I got it right here and I've been reading it. Yeah. And the very first page is about how we're a demonic cult. Like literally September 13th and 14th, he's talking about how we're a demonic cult. Within 48 hours of Charlie Kirk getting shot and then saying the bad rhetoric led to his shooting, people start saying, like, calling people a demonic cult. And he comes out September 28th and is like, I never said that Mormonism was demonic. September 30th or 31st, he's publishing a book where the first line is how Mormons are a demonic cult, dude. It's like the craziest thing you ever saw. I clicked on it right here. Watch, I'm gonna actually put this on the screen. I can't pull it up on Discord for some reason because it's I don't know if it's locked or what. But literally, here's the title page: Are Mormons Christian? And it's a forward written by Mark Driscoll, right? And then chapter 1, 10
Wait, he wrote the forward to his own book?
Well, apparently his church wrote the book, but then like he wrote the forward to it, right?
It's not a very good endorsement for your book when you can't find somebody outside of your own organization
Yeah.
to write the forward.
So look, and then literally, so here's the forward, and what's the very first title on the bottom after he oh, you can't see it, bummer. It's literally Jesus and the Cults. it's like, so literally like within 48 hours, he was trying to say that he never called us a cult or demonic. And then by Saturday, he's publishing a book saying that exact same thing. It's absurd. So anyway, thank you, Keelan Gold, for the super chat. Kerbin15 now says, why is it that I've been seeing random hate comments about our church on these big podcasts? Dude, anybody else noticed it?
Carden,
Yeah.
I have a theory, and I think
Okay.
you explore it for a minute. You know how when your friend protesteth too much, you know, you meet a guy like the most like homophobic guy in high school, when you check him a couple years later, he's married to a dude, you know. Part of me thinks that these anti-Mormon Christians who call us a demonic cult, like if we go into their basement, there's going to be like a pentagram with a dead deer. I can't, but it just feels like they project so much on how we're a demonic cult. And it's not a term that you throw out normally unless you're thinking a lot about demons and cults. And if you're regularly thinking about demonic cults, you're probably in one, right? You know, like this guy. And by the way, his old church that he was a pastor of, the name of his church sounds like it would be a demonic cult. It's called Mars Hill.
Yeah.
Like that tracks.
The sermon from the New Testament where the pagans lived. But it's like, hey, you're going to name your church after something in the New Testament. Oh, you're going to name the pagan hill. Okay, Mark. And you were ousted from that one. You were such a bad pastor. They kicked you out of the Mars Hill Church. And now you're a shepherd in Israel by shiz posting on Twitter and calling people who just survived a shooting demons. But we're the weird ones.
Wow, I just looked it up. Yeah, sure enough, he left Mars Hill Church. Okay, recent reports telling how Mark Driscoll's book reached the top of the bestseller list had left Mars Hill Church, calling the campaign unwise but not uncommon or illegal. There it is. So he faced scrutiny for citation errors in a study guide. Now his book, Real Marriage, yada, yada, this and that. In 2011 or 2012. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll have to look into that. I did see there's a whole podcast dedicated to this, but I haven't heard it yet. So, all right. Well, I guess we answered that super chat, and I don't want to see his browsing history or what's in his basement. You know, I'm saying that it might just be a cult there. Jethro says Christianity TM is not equal to Christianity. I think that reflects Kwaku talking about Christianism versus Christianity. By the way, speak up if you guys have something to say in regards to this, because I'm burning through a bunch of super chats. Gold Pill, love that username, says we need a security team calling. I hope policy changes. Oh, dude, I've already had that conversation with my stake presidents. Totally had that conversation. And they like, other churches spend hundreds of thousands. We don't need to, because fortunately, I swear, we have enough cops and CCW holders that we could really do a good job protecting our own. If we would simply do ourselves the legal justice of actually making it a calling, so that laws in some states that are more liberal that prohibit carrying, unless you have like permission from church authorities, would protect those that were carrying. Does that make sense? This is for if you're not aware of gun law and you're not into CCW stuff. It might just be Chinese to you, but yeah. Anyway, so Gold Pill, I agree with you. Titus, evangelical Steve Deese and crew from the Blaze called out their own for Mormon hatred. One even said, "By your works ye shall know them."
I did see Steve Deese do that, and that was cool.
Okay, what did he say?
There's been a number of them actually
Okay,
that have done that.
Okay, not your. I can't see what his username is.
Your average something.
Yeah, not your average something says LDS bubbles exist and many are blind to the true intentions of seemingly good fellow Christians' attitudes towards us. We know persecution will increase. Why are we shocked when it actually happens? I think you're true. I mean, I think that's correct. He continues to say, what we do, and what we really think are three different things. Acceptance and tolerance for a message indicate alignment with the message. Believe people when inaction is demonstrated. Yes, and I would say the inaction in condemning this from the top 5 YouTube and Instagram pastors is very chilling to me.
I think it's also chilling that like someone like Nemo just radio silent.
Nemo the Mormon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nemo the ex-Mormon.
Yeah, all of them. Sorry, Nemo the ex-Mormon. Yes, exactly. Joe Vasicek says the fall of the whole left.
Wait, I haven't been able to really keep track. Has John DeLynn or any of those guys done a podcast on this yet?
You probably would know the best, Cardin. Have you seen?
I have seen no full-throated defense of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints coming from John DeLynn. I've seen a lot of public figures kind of make the obligatory, like, oh, we condemn violence in all of its forms, but I would never actually say against Mormons unless forced, kind of like, oh, go away, next tweet. You know, I've kind of seen that obligatory mush, but nobody saying like, hey, this is wrong. Like,
well, because I just feel like if you've spent from 2005 to 2025, 2 decades doing one of the most popular Mormon-related podcasts in the world, and in which your goal is basically to get the world to think that the LDS Church is an evil, corrupt, immoral, and harmful institution, and that it produces a high-demand religion, when someone goes and shoots up a sacrament meeting, as the longest running Mormon or ex-Mormon podcast, you should probably say something.
I just checked. I just checked. He put one emoji out with a heart and then reposted somebody else's tweet, Jeremy Runnels.
But
So
then
he
he
put a
was
heart tweet.
speculating, was the shooter Mormon that shot Charlie Kirk? It's related to Mormonism, so I talk about it because that's what we do. And then when the guy's more clearly of his persuasion, it's just, oh, emoji. Yeah, thoughts and prayers, which are fine. Thoughts and prayers are good, but and of course these are the same people that
not praying.
whatever the secular version, positive vibes, manifesting happiness, whatever they do. But when Elder Holland does the musket fire speech, oh my goodness, and podcast after podcast after post after podcast about the musket fire speech, no actual violence can be traced to it, but he said something that sounded like it could be. And so we have to talk about it repeatedly. Something actually happens with something much more powerful than a musket, and it's just nothing, apparently. Seems like a double standard. Just saying.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the podcast, nobody's coming to save us, dude. We'd like to think that there's some kind of, hidden redeeming defense in the ex-Mormon community. That even it's just like the old parable where the guy first sends his servant and then the people in the house kill his servant. And then he sends his maid servant or whatever. Then they kill her. And then finally says, I'm going to send my son. They won't even kill him. And then they just totally slaughter him too. It's just like we keep thinking that there will be refuge somewhere else other than in Zion. And Zion is emergent, as our boy Jacob Hansen points out. We keep looking elsewhere, outside of ourselves, for this Zion. Zion is not found in right-wing Christian nationalism. It's not. We might be temporary bedfellows fighting really gross transgender children's cartoons and pornography for a while. That's right. We might be strange bedfellows with people whose grandparents slaughtered us in Missouri only 125 years ago. But trust me, when that ends, when woke is gone and the power vacuum makes the right fracture into the million pieces that it really is, you'll start realizing, 9 out of 10 of these pieces hate us. Hey, look, the libertarians don't hate us.
Yeah, but it's kind of like when the school bully is coming after you, and the only person defending you is like the guy with tape on his glasses that has an anime shirt. He's like, I'm here for you. It's like, nah, I'd rather you not. Libertarians, I'd rather you kind of keep it over there. It's okay. But I'm not sure if you covered this earlier, Card, because I came in pretty late. But if you look at the confirmed Facebook post from the shooter's family, it was pretty clear his wife was a born-again Christian. It seemed he was in that born-again Christian evangelical world. So when you see people like Mark Driscoll or, who, by the way, we thought Jeff Durbin was the final boss. Mark Driscoll is worse, and worse than Mark Driscoll.
Ooh, worse than Mark Driscoll.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Keep going.
Okay. Worse than Mark Driscoll is the charismatic Calvinist. That guy is dark-spirited. So you think, wait a minute. Not only was there a shooting, and they're saying, oh, shooting is sad, but they're not Christians. That guy was in their camp. Like, that guy was in their camp. So from the United States,
Oop, you froze for a second. In the United States. Oh.
It's over. He's done.
Oh, he's cooked. Wait, you back, Kwaku?
I'm back.
Oh, okay, cool. So in the United States, keep going.
Yeah. And in the evangelical world, I feel like there should be some sort of apology. To get the LDS church, every Mormon in frickin' Utah was posting and saying, we're so horrified and we're so sorry about this violence. We apologized, even though the guy who shot Charlie was technically an inactive LDS person who was going to a Christian church because he had a youth pastor. Okay? So the guy who shot Charlie Kirk didn't become a murderer until he was an ex-Mormon. Okay? I feel like that was glossed over. Okay? We don't have youth pastors in the LDS church, but you have them in the Christian churches. Okay? So that guy shot Charlie Kirk, and Mormons apologized for what a guy who has a youth pastor did. And then a guy from the evangelical world shoots our church, but there's no apologies. There's not even this doesn't represent evangelicalism. It's just, hey, that's really bad that a church was shot, but they're not Christian. So it is kind of bizarre. And then you get like the Allie Beth Stuckies, like that whole circle have been radio silent. The only people to say that we're Christian, that actually affirmed our Christianity and our discipleship to Jesus Christ, I'm not kidding, was Donald Trump, okay? A guy I don't like at all. So Donnie is the one going, I can't believe this happened. It's like, wait, evangelicals, you're making me defend Trump, because in one day he posts about rest in peace, President Nelson, you are amazing, and I can't believe this happened to LDS. He put 2 LDS statements out in one day, okay? But then the rest of the Christian world is just like, wah-wah. So there's something going wrong where I'm saying, thank you, President Trump, and then going to the rest of the Christians saying, oh, why do you hate us? It makes no sense. And I'm just very frustrated because I honestly thought they were better than this. I honestly thought Mormons aren't Christians. I thought it was just jersey measuring for the sake of the game. I didn't realize how much of them would not shed a tear and would just be when someone goes into a sacrament meeting with the GUN and a BOMB and does a terrorist act in Michigan. Full-on terrorism, anti-Mormon terrorism, and all we get is sad, but you're not a real Christian.
Yeah, no, dog, I feel you. In fact, the premise of this whole video is I think a lot of Mormons had some burst bubbles today. I think they've had a very rude awakening. Just like you said, I kind of thought all of this Mormons aren't Christian was kind of just like tribalistic jersey measuring for sake of the game, which actually I think that's a great way of putting it, Kwaku. But dude, there's a lot of Mormons right now that I think are going to be sending you a lot of apologies because you took a lot of heat for a really long time saying, nah, guys, nah, they would come after us too. I took a lot of heat and I just played the video. You missed it. At the very beginning, I played the Instagram reel and the YouTube short where I got in a lot of trouble for saying there will come a day when I see how Andrew Wilson is talking about Mormons, when I see how anti-Semitic the right got overnight, when I just saw how they're treating this canary in that coal mine, like I am really concerned that this is going to turn kinetic against Mormons and we will rue the day. We will beg to get woke back. And all of a sudden being locked out of church for a year and forced to wear goofy masks when you can take them off around the corner and your woke relief society blue-haired president isn't watching. That sounds like a great alternative to wondering if a guy with an AR-15 following Mark Driscoll and Mike Winger thinking that you're less than human because you're actually just a demon and therefore justified in committing a suicide by cop by killing you. Wow. Maybe I kind of want woke back.
Well, hold on. Let's remember woke wasn't just masks. Woke was poisoning our culture. It was ripping our freedoms away. It was burning cities down. It was a lot more than just slapping a mask on and saying,
He was shooting Charlie Kirk.
Hey, all I'm saying is no Portland matcha blue-haired girl burned down a steak center, but a Duck Dynasty looking dude with 2 flags and instructed. That's all I'm saying. Okay, the Robertson looking dad guy. This was horrific, and it's also kind of like pick your poison. It's like it feels like, okay, I don't want to be pressed to death, but I also don't want to be lit on fire. And neither are good, okay? Neither are good. But if you're in the Salem witch trials and one guy's like, look, we're going to put you on rocks and then keep putting wood on top of you until you burst. But we're a lot better than the people that'll set you on fire. Not partial. Not partial to either of you. I'd like to live. Okay, I'd like to live and not be killed for being a witch.
Yeah.
And I feel like the only way out of this is one, we have to, in the same way the Christian church, when Christ formed it, had to look around and said, man, we really are following the covenant here. We are a part of the fulfillment of Scripture. The Sanhedrin hates us. The scribes hate us. The Pharisees and the Sadducees all hate us. We're on our own. Even though they were right, they were on their own. And all the apostles were hunted down, targeted, hunted down by either the church that was supposed to have the covenant or the state religion, the Roman pagans. So I think we if we say we're the true church, we say we've got the restored gospel. That doesn't mean we're better, and it doesn't mean the other Christians aren't Christians. Doesn't mean they're not disciples. Doesn't mean they're not going to heaven because we think they are. We do have to say, hey, look, we have culturally and politically tried to align with people that don't shed a tear when a terrorist act happens. And that is worth reflecting because, if we try to help these same people try to win certain culture wars, all they're going to do when we help them out on the battlefield after they beat the other people is come after us. And I think we should have known that in the fact that those are the same people that killed the prophet Joseph Smith and killed Hiram Smith. And they still make jokes about it to this day. And they say he had it coming to this day. And we now think, oh, maybe they'll. So I'm not being a doomsdayer. I'm not saying grab a bunch of weapons, and I'm just saying if we do align ourselves, we're the only people that are going to align them are going to be like the Hillsong type, worship, the vibes-based Christian churches. The guys that aren't about doctrine, they've got the worship band and they're there with the vibes ones. Those are the people that I think are the only shot we have, and the weirdos like the Jehovah's Witnesses and those people that are considered weirdos like us.
Yeah, It would be interesting to get the Pew data on the J-dubs. They don't show up in that religious landscape survey. I'd be
You know how
interested to see
countries
that.
can annex? You know how we can like annex other countries and like make them a part of? Do you think the church could buy the J-dubs? Like, do you think we might be able to like just like absorb them and say, look,
No, no, no. You were talking about libertarians earlier. Those are the libertarians of the religious world. Not
Uh,
necessarily bad, but also don't necessarily want to be associated with them.
yeah, like the no windows on the building. That's that. It's like
Yeah.
that one, man. I don't know. You got it. If I can't see in or out, that tells me there's something
Didn't
going
you know
on.
that the spirit travels through fluorescent light? That's what it does. You didn't know that?
I don't know if you're making a joke or if that's what they believe, and that's
See, that's the problem that we have.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so we are going to go over to a couple of more super chats really fast. I got this guy right here. Mike Smith says, "I'm glad I'm glad people don't see us as quote Christian. We do not want to be associated with their movement. If people ask if you are a Christian, tell them you follow the teachings of Christ." We had an entire podcast that was dedicated to that. And I think it's actually a really good question. Do we even want to be called Christians or not? I told kids teacher we are members of the church this afternoon. She said she knew something was off with them this week. My 11-year-olds are terrified people will find out. We are in Florida.
Okay, I heard that different than I think it was intended. At first, I thought the teacher was saying, "Oh yeah, I knew there was something wrong with those kids."
Oh,
What it was trying to say is that
They
the
were
teacher
scared.
was aware that the demeanor of the children had changed in the past week,
yeah, exactly.
which makes sense, especially with President Nelson as well.
Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, everyone in the chat saying there's some mic issues, sound issues.
Oh, which person?
Oh, weird.
Did they say who?
Yeah, they're saying Carter, but he's in charge of the audio, I think so.
Okay, is that better, guys?
Yay, it's fixed. Yes, better. Yeah.
Oh, that was weird. Yeah, there was some sound. There was a reverb right there. I don't know what happened. It's just a glitch. OBS.
Yeah, because we didn't get that on our end.
Yeah. So anyway, Paulie Nike says, evangelicals, feel free to bring your nonsense to Gilbert, Arizona. Not all of us are pacifists like Jonah Barnes or Luke Hansen. You a pacifist, Luke?
I debated Jonah on pacifism, and I beat him. So no.
That's funny. That's funny. All right. We also got, let me see. Pizza Doctor has already got his Christian Warrior channel was a church security ministry training. Interesting video today too. So how do we protect our churches? Security. There are many less lethal defenses than guns if that's the COB's objection. Oh, dude, that's true. I'm getting ungun. How long have I been talking to you guys? Kwaku, what did we almost go do 3 trips ago?
Weren't we gonna go do some target practice?
Some training. Yeah, we were literally going to do training, and I was doing a Cardin Ellis adventure video of why every Mormon chapel needs a Byrna, and it's a less than lethal, air compressed. It looks like a pistol, but it shoots like paintball sized kinetic rounds that in some states are pepper balls that discapacitate, in others they're just hard balls that knock you down and over, and they do not count as a firearm. And the little cartridge lasts 6 months. I literally think that like every chapel needs multiple of those around. We can't just rely on society anymore to play nice. So Nautical Board says the Bible says that the Antichrist wants to replace Christ and will deceive the whole world. The Antichrist is creedism, but the peaceful are of Christ. I don't think it's necessarily just creedism. I think any kind of ism out there can take you away from Jesus Christ and become a false idol. But I mean, the logical conclusion tracks. So
this is something people aren't ready for.
What?
If I say this, I know I'm going to get clipped on some youth pastor podcast and made it look like an a-hole. But we don't go hard enough against the creeds, and we do the thing like like the hardest to go against a creed is like Jacob, right? When Jacob Anson is like, and we can prove here that the creeds are not accurate to the biblical tradition. Yeah, and the people who are creating the creeds were politically funded warlords whose whose life was funded by the crown, who did incredible damage everywhere they went. It's not like the people that created these creeds were just a bunch of dorky, sweet people. The people that the fathers of classical Christianity as we know it, excluded from the early church fathers, because Origen sounds like a Mormon and Saint Irenaeus sounds like a Mormon, and those guys, these people were politically motivated. These people were being funded by the crown and various other European and Mediterranean powers, and they were a part of these groups that were doing large killings. These are part of these groups that were doing violent early colonialism. So why did we trust that? People get angry? People get so mad at Joseph Smith because they hear in an offhand comment, well, I heard he married a bunch of people's wives. Your guys lit women on fire. If I had to choose between having a neighbor who either was Jedediah with his 5 wives or the shoe bomber Richard Reed, who do you think I'm going to pick?
It's true.
Yep. Well, and even they'll look at something like the witnesses and say, oh, the witnesses, they were friends of Joseph Smith, so that's kind of sus. I don't know if we can believe them. And then you look at the Council of Nicaea, and it's called by the emperor to help consolidate the empire when he wasn't even Christian yet. It's like, how sus is that? Like, come on, you guys.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so we got a couple more comments here. Pizza Doctor, thank you very much for your comment. Pauline Nikes, thank you for yours. Gold Pill says TPUSA COO is a Latter-day Saint. And it's true. I was talking to some people at Deseret News today, and they're kind of a little bit disappointed that he hasn't done a little bit more to defend his people. I'm not expecting him to go out in a blaze of glory with a resignation letter that says no more TPUSA for me. But Mormons really do, I think, need to step up in the defense of their faith and say, you know what? No. I'm sorry, there is a line. Okay? So LDS Response says, grew up in Arkansas. This was normal Christian response. Want to deal with their distortions. Moved to Overton Window further. Got a planet, no universe. Okay, don't know what the got a planet, no universe means. But I do understand that this has been normalized. Emphasis on that word normal. It's been normalized, this kind of anti-Mormon Christian rhetoric. And we've been saying for a long time on this show that once this goes kinetic, a lot of people we are not ready for this as a faith. And I think a lot of people, I've said it 10 times already, but a lot of people got a rude awakening today. Ben, you're going to have to say something pretty soon in response to one of these super chats, because you're being very Midwestern kind, but quiet, and you are a wise individual, and I want to hear what you have to say. So next comment here we have is the Shade Master. He says, Cardin, Angel Studios was made by us. That's what makes this betrayal so stupid. The Chosen, Sound of Freedom was funded by us. What are they thinking? Well, not by us uniquely. There's many people that contributed, but I think we cannot rely upon Christian culture to be a refuge. As Mormons, we need to make our own. BYU TV needs to stand up and be its own streaming platform. I've had extremely good interactions with Angel Studios, and they are producing phenomenal content right now that is very, very not pro LDS in the sense that they're promoting us, but very, very friendly to Latter-day Saints. I think The Chosen was a phenomenal production. I think the Helmuth Huebner movie, Truth and Treason, was a phenomenal production, and everybody should go see it. But whether they're the exception to the rule or not, I'm not sure. I just believe that Mormons need to make their own stuff. And as we succeeded when we created culture and community, whether it was in Kirtland or whether it was in Nauvoo or whether it was in Brigham Young's Empire of the West, and as much as Jesus Christ does command us to go out and to be the salt that giveth the plate its savor and to actually go out and preach the gospel and not be an insular people, which I believe is true. Part of what attracts people to us, makes them feel the spirit first, is the community that we create, the culture that we create, and the more positive, unique, and independent Mormon culture creation that we have, the less we will become dependent upon people that hate us. And I think a lot of Mormons today realized how much people hate us from all walks of life. I've received text messages today from people that have said, today was a kick in the face and a kick in the groin. I'm talking about people that are the height of producers at Netflix, producers at all the streaming platforms. Like, today was an awakening on everybody's social media profiles. Okay. Jordan Lundquist, it's been sad to see lack of coverage by right-wing media. Minimal mention by the Daily Wire. Shooter didn't have a left-wing motive, so story doesn't sell. It's a blind spot.
There is actually a story on the Daily Wire posted earlier today, this afternoon, about the fundraiser for the shooter. So that was good to see. It's kind of weird reading Dave Butler's name in a Daily Wire story on something that originated, an idea that originated in a group chat I'm in with you guys. So that was a little weird. That was cool. But it's true on the programs themselves.
Well, can I say what's actually interesting about this, as someone who studied comms and mass media at BYU, what's interesting is media likes stories that are sellable. Things have to be sellable and they have to be easy to understand. And whenever something happens where there's media coverage, but it's not easy to understand, our pundits and our journalists get uncomfortable. One example of this was RFK, right? RFK was very hard for people to understand because you've got a lifelong Democrat from the Kennedy family, but he's also going on falconing trips and then grabbing dead baby bears to skin them and eat them alive, but then can't bring the baby bear home in time. So he has to toss the baby bear into a park and put a bike on top of it. Like, people can't wrap their head around that. Like, I don't know what's going on here. So when your average person hears, oh my gosh, there was a church shooting in Dearborn, Michigan, their first thought is, okay, it's Michigan. It's not, well, they're thinking Dearborn, right? They think, okay, was this Islamic terrorism? Because we know there's a lot of Muslims in Michigan. That was people's first assumption. Oh, is it leftism? Is it a leftist? It's kind of they go, oh no, it's a what? It's some hillbilly looking guy. Why? Huh? And then their brain starts to turn away because they don't understand that dynamic of, yeah, there's a strong tradition among very religious Christians to hate Mormons. Your average secular guy in Washington or California who has no clue is like, what? I don't get what's going on. So they shy away. And because your average person isn't involved in this dialogue, the journalists don't want to cover it. People don't want to cover it. They want to try to make it. They go, okay, so this guy is this a MAGA thing? Well, Mormons are conservative, so why would a MAGA guy? But he is MAGA, and he goes, no. If this was political, that was maybe 20% of it. The majority of this was because it was anti-Mormonism bred from a Protestant or evangelical Christianity. That's why. And that dialogue is something they're not going to touch because it's too niche.
Yeah. And I mentioned this a little earlier before you hopped on, Kwaku. When you listen to them, they'll report that like, oh, a guy, American flags, not of the left, shot Mormons. Apparently he hated them. And then they kind of just leave it there and move on because I don't think they're aware of what's out there in terms of anti-Mormonism. And hopefully stuff like this doesn't keep happening to make more people aware of it. The silver lining is that if stuff like this does happen more, I think a lot of people, when it gets on their radar, will reject it. You will see a fairly widespread, like, whoa, no. Like, that should not have been growing inside of evangelical Christianity, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And you'll see it condemned a lot more widely, but there just doesn't seem to be an awareness of, and like with Trent Horn that I was explaining before, he didn't really even know that there were entire channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers dedicated only to anti-Mormonism.
Yeah, and I will say I found your article. I know you're a little apologist for the Daily Wire and you're defensive. So I'm giving you your dude, I'm giving you, the devil is
Well,
due.
tell me what I'm supposed to attack them over.
No,
I'm happy to
the
give it out where it's due.
he said, here's the article: Mormons raised more than $265K for family of gunmen who attacked Michigan church. This astounds me, and it's weird seeing Dave Butler, just a friend of ours that's been on the show, in the news, as you know, as the director of Ward Radio. It's wild and humbling to see Stick of Joseph, a channel I helped start, Ward Radio, also mentioned in the news, and have people texting me saying this, oh my gosh, there's an article that mentions your show and all that. But like, to stop and just think, I was there in our group chat when Jonah Barnes said and posted the tweet where he said, we really should even be praying for Tyler Robinson, Charlie Kirk's shooter, and seeing just the blowback from everybody, like, how dare you? But then stopping and analyzing and thinking, man, that is truly praying, loving your enemies and praying for those that spitefully use you. And then I was there again when he suggested, and apparently others did, that Dave Butler saw too, according to his story. But I was there and I saw Jonah Barnes saying, these Give, Send, Goes and these fundraisers for the victims are good, but somebody should really make one for the shooter's family too, especially since they had a special needs kid and like he's a victim too. And that's so anathema to me. And then also to see like my buddy Dave Butler, like to jump into action and just do it. Like, I'm in Hollywood, dude. Ideas are cheap. Everybody's got a great idea. And who knows, making the fundraiser for the shooters, maybe that was somebody's Christian idea somewhere, that's great or whatever. But the fact that he actually jumps into action and does it, does what is so, not anathema, but antithetical to the natural impulse as a member of the church who just experienced, I didn't experience it directly, but just saw what somebody just did to my people and burned the building down, and the rage and the anger that you feel thinking like all of that negative emotion, the fact that he would go out of his way to overcome that in the name of Christianity and then set up a fundraiser for the very family that was left behind by the shooter is we have to stop and think about how profoundly Christian that is and how that would not happen without Jesus Christ. And through small and simple things are great things brought to pass. And it's kind of wild thinking that our buddy Dave Butler, who just like looks like he just fell out of a biker gang and then wrote a sci-fi story, you know what I'm saying, is now one of the most Christian acts we've seen all week. So with that said, I'm also going to make sure that we throw up the Give, Send, Goes, and the links will be in the description for the other families that have been affected, to make sure that they also get paid out as well. A lot of people were wondering why the shooter's family one got so big so fast. And frankly, that was just because we were able to verify it sooner. We knew exactly who had started it. We know who Dave Butler is, and he sent us the link in the Ward Radio chat, and we started watching it go up. Ben actually had to do a good job of vetting who the actual victims' families' fundraisers were. And do we have all of these? I'm putting them on the screen right now. Do we have all of these now accounted for, Ben?
Yes.
We do?
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
so. I threw one in the Discord before we started, and that was for the EM residents, but that one's done. They capped that, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay. So one was actually done so effectively that it was paid out.
Yeah, and just so that one ended at 273,538.
Wow. Jeez. Holy smoke. That's like insanely impressive. Okay, so we'll go back to putting these in the descriptions so everybody can see them, because some of these other ones haven't capped out yet. We're glad to see them growing, and we fully support everybody that is looking to assist, to concentrate their efforts there. And a lot of people have wanted to send like packages and letters and notes there's been such a demand for that. Me and Ben are wondering if we shouldn't just rent some kind of mail center PO box there in Michigan. So there's a place that can be posted that somebody can send that. Like, the outpouring of support has been amazing. How's it been, Ben, over there? Do the members feel, do they feel supported by everybody else in the North American church?
I'm sure they do, but they're so overwhelmed with emotions and grief. I think it's going to be quite a while before the shock of not just the event, but then of course the response to it. I was showing some people at work today that feed on the Give, Send, Go. I mean, try to read that for 5 minutes and not shed a tear. It's unbelievable. So I think it's going to take a lot of time. Time will do its thing as much as it possibly can in an event like this. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much I could say because they're hurting so much. So,
Yeah.
but I would imagine that they certainly feel supported because I've been told that they're overwhelmed with support. So we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and this happened since we talked last. I might as well just talk about it because it is shoot news. But yeah, looks like the apostles did indeed make it there, minister to the local congregation, and apparently it went very, very well, as well could be in this scenario. So while others are saying we're not Christian, they're mourning with those that mourn, comforting those that stand in need of comfort, which by your fruits you shall know them. And Jesus Christ said, by this you shall know that ye are my disciples, that ye have love one for another. And it's a beautiful thing to see how members of the church have the ability to band together in the face of tragedy. And Joseph Smith's forgiveness and the LDS Church's community are like the two biggest things that I just think. Well, and now Dave Butler's Give, Send, Go. I got another one that's up there that are just spiritual manifestations for me of I'm in the right place. I'm in the right church. The gospel is true. The book is blue, the whole 9 yards. So back to the last comments that we got here. Super chats. We're already into overtime. Hopefully we can end here in the next 10 minutes. Benjamin K. Weber says, Boy Scout motto, be prepared to meet our Father, prepared to defend our families in memory of our God, our religion and freedom, our peace, our wives, and our children. Yes, thank you, Benjamin. Not your average ... Can't see it. Says Cardin, Jesus came to save us. Oops. Oh my goodness gracious. There's so many left. Okay, I got to burn through these. Cardin, Jesus came to save us. The way out of this is education, possibly apologetics taught in seminary. Get in front of this with truth and learn to speak the opposition in their language. I think you're totally right. Jeremy C. says too many members have fallen into the like me trap, downplaying truths of the restoration, hoping that Christians will let us into the club. Joseph Smith was a prophet. The Book of Mormon is true. Jesus lives and saves. Kwaku or Ben, you got any commentary on that one?
No, I love that last one.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Hit it.
Okay, so what this is the quote right before it. I know it's really cool because the title of Liberty is just like just kind of a BA part of the Book of Mormon. But I feel like we misuse it a lot. I feel like it's almost never used accurately. You know, it's like, you know, like Amalickiah was trying to become king. Like he was like trying to do a takeover of the land. Like that's kind of why Moroni wrote it, and I kind of feel like we use it for everything, and so it is beautiful. But do we have another one we can use that applies more for like this kind of stuff? Like, because that was effectively a coup that was happening, and Captain Moroni is like, this guy's trying to become king, so we need to like, if he becomes king, he's going to take away our faith. So we should make sure. You know what I mean? So
are you suggesting it's kind of like the Constitution will hang by a thread? Like every 6 weeks, somebody comments that because of something that's happening in Congress. And I'm like, you know, the Constitution can't be hanging by a thread like every 6 weeks. You know, like I get that some prophecies repeat themselves, but it's
I
not
understand every 4
6
years
weeks.
in November. Like, okay, fine, but
people were saying like when Evan McMullen was trying to be president, people were like, it's a member of the church. This means the Constitution's hanging by a thread. Like, guys, I hate to break it to you. Evan McMullen is not going to be the one to save the Constitution in the United States. Like, well, if he gets Utah and Idaho, then the election will go to the. What are you talking about? Evan
To the
McMullen
Electoral College. Yeah. That was funny. All right. We got about 20 more super chats left. I'm going to burn through these really fast. We've got YPYN Thundero. You need to get Shad from Night's Watch and Shadiversity on a stream. He said on his Culture War stream for you guys to reach out, and he likes your channel. Oh, is that true? I've heard chatter in our group chat about I think Brad was trying to reach out to Shad, but I didn't realize that he called us by name. He mentioned us by name.
Mm-hmm. He also did a whole live stream on the shooting as well.
Oh,
with some of his
interesting.
not LDS Christian buddies.
Okay. Wow. Well, dude, I'm guessing
we've been brainstorming.
Hey,
he's open.
Did you know Lad Bible TV, I think, is making a hit piece on us?
Yeah, and Jacob Hansen.
Yeah. Both me and Jacob Hansen received an email where they're asking us to license clips from our show, and that usually means they just want permission. So there's some trivial lawsuit that doesn't get used, and it's like, well, why would there be a lawsuit over our? Why would there be a lawsuit over our content? It's like, what interest does Lad Bible TV have in Ward Radio? Well, I'm surmising that Lad Bible TV is the outlet that did the Honesty Box with Nemo the ex-Mormon back when he was charading as Nemo the Mormon. And so I think they're either going to do some kind of sequel where they wanted to react to our content and lampoon us and make us look like whatever woke villain they want us to be. Or there's some Black Swan thing that I can't predict. Or I don't know. They're just doing some puff piece on Nemo to make him look great and Mormons look bad. And then just we're kind of the only pro LDS live stream that's ever really challenged him in any kind of significant way. So they're going to try and just clip little snippets from us to make us be the villains in the movie. Because you always need a heel and you always need a baby face. And they're going to baby face Nemo and they're going to make us the heel. So who do you think they're going to lampoon worse? Who do you think they're going to take out of context worse, Jacob or us? Who do you think they hate more?
Jacob.
Probably.
So you think we're going to get a pass, huh?
Oh, I don't know if we'll get a pass.
Look, here's the thing. I love Jacob. Jacob's my friend. Jacob's phenomenal at what he does. We need to teach him how to be just friendlier on camera, because we all know, like, we've hung out, we spent hours with Jacob. When the camera's off, he's a laughy, smiley, jovial guy, right? But when he gets it, like, the amount of
he does monologue.
Well, I get what he's going for, but we gotta do something. Like, maybe we need to do like an episode where he's cooking dinner with Jacob to humanize him, because people, like, I've heard criticism after I've talked, people who recognize Ward Radio will be like, yeah, sometimes I watch it and they'll say, here's what I like, and they'll say, here's what I don't like. Sometimes I get like I just met with someone who owns a venue, and she's an ex-Mormon, and she watches the show, and she was like, Cardin goes too far for me, but he seems nice. Okay. And then she said, I don't like Jacob. I don't like Jacob. I can't stand him. I hate his, like, she hates it. So we gotta, and it's just something. Jonah, also, we know Jonah doesn't have a serious bone in his body. He's all jokes. People kind of don't like Jonah. People kind of hate Jonah too. So we gotta, I don't know what it is.
Well, he's spicy. He can be quite spicy.
Yeah, but you know what's wild?
Yeah.
You've seen in the group chat, Kwaku, Jonah has been completely de-radicalized from the right. After seeing how people have...
He never was.
He was a pacifist. That's
pretty de-radicalized.
Well, yeah.
Pretty.
Well, because you have to be a warmonger. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Cardin, let's be real.
I'm not going to try to fight it.
I just...
Jonah's a
Wait, we're on overtime already.
Jonah's a baker. He bakes bread for a living, literally. How many bakers are like, yeah, we're a part of the. How many bakers are watching Nick Fuentes? None. You know what I mean? I don't think he was ever. I think he's a centrist who teeters a little more left. I think that's it. I think he teeters like barely. I don't think he was ever.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny. All right, let's burn through 5 more really fast. Through the Mist, the AI written book. Yep, there's accusations that Mark Driscoll's book is AI. We can't verify that, but that's kind of funny if it is. Ashton,
no, it's not. I can verify it's not, because it's not that there's no artificial intelligence, because there's no intelligence in it.
Savage.
There's not even fake smart.
Ashton Jade Productions. Oh, it's been a while since we saw Ashton Jade. She said, FYI, it's pronounced Steve Dace. Thanks for tonight, guys. Oh, it's not Steve Deese. It's, whatever.
Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, so we've got Righteous Trouble says, are you looking for some Righteous Trouble? That's funny. They ended up using that as a username. Monroe Voorhees says, CCW members have never stopped caring. I would love for the church to fully support and offer professional training. I think that's coming. And in California, we're going to be shaking things up a little bit differently. I've been talking to priesthood authorities, both on the stake and the bishopric level, and it seems like they know. And they were kind of very eye-opened. They're like, wow, Cardin, you have been talking about online radicalization for a while. Do you think it's going to get better? I was like, no, it's getting worse. This is the new normal, dude. You know, so I think finally they're taking it seriously. Lisa Frampton says, I love what Dave Alexander says about all of this. An older convert himself. He needs to be a guest here. We've had him on the program before. It's been a very long time, though. We'll see if we can't get him back. The Arc is Steady says, Tyler Boyat, TPUSA Avoyant, said that on stage. He was LDS. Rock on. That's good to hear.
Wait. Say that again. What?
Tyler Boyrat. I think they spelled it wrong. It's Boy Bauer, or who's the LDS guy on TPUSA?
Oh, well, there's Andrew, and then this is a different one.
Okay. I don't know who he is, but we'll keep running through the super chats. Even when testifying of Christ brings pushback, the Spirit fills us with the fruit sweeter than fear. Elder Bednar taught our hearts determine who we become when we turn to Christ. Zion in the millennium will begin in us now. Yes, as Jacob Hansen said, Zion is emergent. CPU Chip says, when will be the first time for DNC 4568? Flee to Zion. I don't want to fight my neighbors. That's true. Well, it's emergent wherever we are. So just invite your neighbors to church, and if they're nice and, you know, they can join Zion, and it'll just happen where you make it happen. Lift where you stand, baby. Boa Omega says, do all meeting houses have sprinklers? I believe so, most of North America. And then Josh Carr says, our strength as organization, we need to flood anti-channels, websites, churches, and books with bad reviews. We need to get thousands of elders to show up and, quote, positive protest at general conference to drown out the haters. This is a good question. Kwaku, Ben, and Luke, who wants to take this? Do you think we finally need to introduce more activism into the church?
Well, I think we have to be careful about exactly how we go about it, because I hate to keep drawing parallels, but in the Book of Mormon, when were we ever on the offensive? And I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, and it was a lot of wartime comparisons. How exactly can we be offensive? What exactly is this conversation leading towards? We're certainly not going to try to love anyone less. And I hate throwing that out because I'm a big criticizer of that sort of talk. I brought it up earlier, but I know that we're still going to do our interfaith activities as often as we can. We have a huge nativity that we do every year in Midland at our stake center. We're still going to do that. The public's still going to be welcome. We're not going to limit how we minister to others despite their differences in doctrine or anything like that. I think what this comment is referring to, I think, is deepening our own discipleship and consecration while still challenging not just the demon talk. We're just talking about everyday misconceptions about our church. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints believes in X, not Y. It believes in this, not that. I remember there was a discussion in our elders quorum about how we need to stay off social media and this and that, and it's really what it was referring to was just how much time we spend arguing with people. And I just spoke up and said we need to challenge people 100%, not just the misconceptions, We're talking about the liars of the world. But we need to be very careful. Again, we don't want to ostracize anyone, but we certainly need to stand up. And trust me, if this is coming off a little weak, you can go on my X account. Trust me, I have been doing nothing but calling for greater consecration and discipleship in our church and within our own hearts as members for years, and it has only amplified this last couple weeks. So we just have to be careful. The word activism, I'm not really sure about that. I agree with creating our own content. That's superb. I look for that. I'm so tired of vetting everything. I have to Google everything. What's in this show? What's in this game for my kids? I'm so sick of that. If we had our own culture and content that we could gravitate to, not be isolated, but gravitate to, and have that, we wouldn't have to waste time doing it. But that's just a convenience type thing.
Okay, and Kwaku's gonna like this one. Oh, Kwaku, I hear you saying something.
Well, yeah, well, piggybacking off of what Ben just said, and I've said this for years, mostly in our media planning meetings, but we need to learn from our brothers and sisters who are Jewish. Jewish people overcame the worst kind of thing that could happen to them in the 1940s. And what they did with media was come together and say, look, people won't understand Torah, people won't understand Judaism, but we can inoculate some of the anti-Semitism by creating awesome culture. And we got Seinfeld, we got Judd Apatow, we got all the best movies, phenomenal comedies, Adam Sandler. We got Jewish people entertaining America for 3 decades straight. And it was such a phenomenal thing. So the Jewish people understood, hey, we're not necessarily going to be able to someone with a hardened heart who just wants to hate us is going to do that. And the same way Mormons didn't understand, look, people have hardened hearts. Mark Driscoll's not going to change. But if Mark Driscoll's congregants can go watch a movie and they could be like, oh, these Mormons are kind of fun. Oh, I kind of like this music. Oh, I'm laughing. I like these people. That's going to work. Remember that Kanye West tweet, right? Like 2 months after he said, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on, and then he tweets, I just got done watching Superbad. I'm no longer an anti-Semite because I really like Jonah Hill. This stuff works. This stuff works. So part of that's going to be we do have to create culture. We're doing that now, but right now it's a lot of drunken moms who are swinging on Hulu. Okay, but if we could also make people laugh, we could also bring them entertainment. We can show what the community is like, the Latter-day Saint community is like, without even doing a doctrinal debate. That is going to carry us so far.
Yeah,
and we were doing that in the 2010s with Imagine Dragons and Mitt Romney and all that. The Mormon moment ended, but it was doing really well. So we need that again.
Okay. And I would also say we need to create positive culture. You know, Kwaku, we're writing movies and then getting comedy sketches organized right now. That's a big goal for 2026 to start executing. We'll release in 2026 and hopefully starting to record in fall and winter of 2025. But also, I think we need to put the feet to the fire on you're right. We're never going to change Pastor Mark Driscoll's mind. But Luke, you'll notice, I think it's good that Thoughtful Faith, Jacob Hansen, our buddy, is openly challenging these anti-Mormon pastors to debates so their congregants can see that, wow, these people chicken out and they never actually debate. And Mark Driscoll got ratioed hard today. I learned more about the art of the ratio. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, and I saw on the stream the picture that you had up. There's an updated one that I'm going to try to find while I'm talking. But yeah, because Jacob has been trying to debate Mark for 3 weeks now, something like that. Jonah, doing his Jonah thing, has put up every day he puts out a tweet of days of awkward silence from Pastor Driscoll.
Oh, that's funny.
And we finally got a response, and he basically just said no. And Jacob didn't even say a debate with me. He just said talk to us instead of about us.
Yeah.
And all Pastor Mark did is say no, but you can buy my book that just came out today. He just explicitly was like, nah, man, I'm a grifter, not a Charlie Kirk. That's not me, bro. And he just got ratioed so hard.
Oh, that's
it was
funny.
crazy.
That's hilarious. Okay, last 6 super chats, and then we can get out of here. Ben's got to go to bed, man. He's got to have his Midwestern beauty sleep, dude. The Viking.
Oh yeah, what
needs his
time zone
energy.
are you on? Central?
It's about 1:45 here, but I'm all right.
Yeah.
Oh, you're Eastern then.
He's
You're
brutal.
Eastern. I was on the Eastern time zone for a year doing these live streams, and yeah, some late
You
nights.
fought the good fight, bro. You fought the good fight. So, Bobby Hodge, let me get these back up on screen. Bobby Hodge here says, shout out to Metatron and Shadiversity for covering this and giving us the love we deserve. Metatron in particular has been a loving voice of videos on his channels. That's great. I got to watch those more. Bobby Hodge says, petition to only refer to him as Mark Thickskull. Oh, brutal. That's like a Donald Trump diminutive right there. And then I think Quaker would appreciate this one. Nathaniel Wilkerson says, I guess we aren't going mainstream now. Well, I would actually argue that we kind of oddly have been lately in pop culture. Wouldn't you say, Quaku?
Yeah, no, we're definitely mainstream right now. No two ways about it. But with that comes there comes pushback, and here's the reality: the Mark Driscoll Apologia Studios type evangelicals don't like that they're losing. They are not winning the fight, and right now, if there is an American Vatican, it's in Salt Lake City. The reality is, we're winning. And they're uncomfortable with it because they've yelled for 200 years, it's a cult, it's a cult, it's a cult, it's a bad, evil cult, demons, XYZ. But they're wondering, why do they have this thumb on the culture right now? And so this is just part of what happens when you are winning, and so I think it's they're gonna gnash their teeth, they're gonna yell, they're gonna lose their minds, they're gonna talk at us, not to us, but at the end of the day, we're winning.
Okay, so LDS supremacists. Oh boy,
we're not winning with these people.
Yeah.
We're gonna win when we get rid of. I hope President Oaks, when he gets sworn in, says, "I need every member of the church to delete X."
Oh, that's funny. Well, let's see what he says.
We won't win until that app is gone, because that's the only place we're losing, and we look like lunatics is that app. But everywhere else.
Funny. Okay, so he says, I just jumped in and I have no idea what you're currently talking about, but I have been trying to reach out to push for someone to teach or reach out to Tim Pool and get someone to pay them a visit to represent us. Yes, that's true. And I think that there's a lot of these mainstream podcasts now are trying to find members of the church that are at arm's length, and I hope that those members do a good job representing us. And we have volunteered ad nauseum on this channel to talk to any podcast that wants to speak to us about Mormon issues. And it behooves us to lift where we stand. So thank you very much, LDS Supremacist. That's funny. That's a funny name. One Latter-day Saint says, President Nelson, a doctor, was called when we got COVID. If Oaks, lawyer, supreme, and defender of the faith is the next president, I think we're in for a lot of persecution and we'll need defenders like him. Oof. Yeah.
I do have a little bit of pushback.
Hit it.
On that slightly.
Okay. Do you have your camera on? Do you have your camera on? Because your camera.
Oh no, it's a little technical problem.
Oh, okay.
Guys,
But I just have a very brief. I have a very brief.
Cool.
But what specifically was Monson prepared for that the church really needed at the time? Yeah.
An exit from Boy Scouts. A really tall guy.
Yeah, just because he was Supreme Court justice doesn't mean therefore X, Y, or Z is going to happen in the future. So I think people get
but wait,
you want to read stuff into it and you want to kind of see the prophetic mantle happening, but I don't think we should get too ahead of ourselves. However, I'm very open.
Who called him though?
Kimball, right?
And he called them in what order?
Nelson and Oaks in that order. Yep. Oh no, I definitely believe he's the man for the time. I don't think we can just automatically say, oh, Supreme Court Justice guy, that must mean in the next 5 years, something is going to happen.
So last 2 super chats. Kale Chips Vendetta says, I will plug that we are doing I will plug that we are doing that with Homeschool Education, The Good and the Beautiful, Tuttle Twins. Well, those two, but still widely recognized. Yes, I think in the homeschool front, there's definitely a lot more culture creation. And then finally, KMLOC says, stand in holy places. Thank you very much, guys, for all of your super chats and all of your contributions. Today, I'm making sure that I got all of them. And yes, indeed, it looks like I have. Thank you so much, everybody, for contributing with us today. I think a lot of members have had a wake-up call today, and there's varied opinions on how we react to that. But at the end of the day, if we do it prayerfully and with deep spiritual consideration, I'm confident that the Lord will guide and bless our efforts. Before we get out of there, Luke, where can people find you? How can they follow you? Tell us about all your stuff, bro, and your new channel and your everything, man.
He said BRB in the chat, so I think he is.
Oh, his technical difficulties did it. Well, you can
Yeah.
find him at, it's not Doctrine and Covenants, but it's Doctrine and Governance, and he's got a really cool YouTube channel, and you guys should follow it. Also, sometimes he writes for us at Ward Radio News and helps edit a lot of the content there. If you guys haven't signed up for the Ward Radio newsletter yet, please make sure that you guys check it out. I'm actually going to show you exactly how to do that really fast. If you guys go simply to wardradio.com, wardradio.com, boom. You guys, this is what our website looks like right here. You can either click at the top on news and then check out our news blog where we have all of the cool latest, greatest stories that have been written and curated here, sent directly to your inbox. If on the main channel, you guys scroll down and sign up for our newsletter right there. See where it says sign up for our newsletter? Just fill in your email address right there. And whenever a new news article comes out, it'll get sent straight to your inbox. Also, if you're a person of means and you want to contribute through Venmo or Zelle or on our Amazon wish list, we have that available on the website as well. And Ben Kaiser, where can people follow you, my man?
You can follow me on X. It's Benjamin Kaiser with 2 R's. I got a Substack I can toss in the chat, but that's also on X as well.
Okay, cool. Toss it in the chat because we got another 30 seconds where we're showing off the rest of these very beautiful, very helpful, much needed give, send, goes, and fundraisers. The Sanford family still has their fundraiser started by Dave Butler open. Also, Jeff and Marie. Theirs is still going on with 89% of their goal reached. That's beautiful to see that family starting to gain assistance. Also, we've already surpassed the goal for the basic support for Grand Blank Church victims and surpassed our goal for Craig Hayden, who unfortunately lost his life on September 28th there as well, helping that family out. Same with John Bond. That has been exceeded, but hey, let's keep exceeding him. You know, I think there's never been a better chance. I mean, a better excuse to be generous this week than with these fundraisers. Also, Greg Mikatz is 82% funded. We're going to put the links to these in the description of this video as well, so you guys can check them out there. If not, you can go straight to GoFundMe yourself. And then also the support of the Phelps family. For some reason, the Phelps family, they were maybe one of the earliest ones to go out first because they ended up getting an inordinate amount of help and assistance. Do you know why theirs did so much better than the others, Ben?
Well, a lot of them were quietly initiated and there wasn't a whole lot of sharing with it. So I hate to say it like this, but when they come out sooner, the wound in everybody's heart is a little bit more raw. And I'm not saying well, I am saying that they're a little bit more likely
the
to
impulse
give,
to help is there.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you had to then vet them. So as those came out, they had, 24 hours can make a big difference. So what I committed to when I spoke to anyone is look, because I will say there was some like head scratching online, like, hey, how come we're raising all this money for the shooter's family? What about our own people? First of all, we're going to take care of these people. If there are any gaps, I promise you, we going to fill them. Like I trust the membership of this church.
Yeah.
I trust the outlets and the tools that we've been using. If there's a need, we will fill it. If that hasn't been demonstrated yet, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. Rock on. I like it. Dude, the Michigan members of the church have really impressed me. There are like two churches that function simultaneously though, and I have noticed that like no matter where you are in the church, there's like the millennial and the Gen Z and Gen Alpha church, and then there's like the boomer church, and they just sometimes they the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. So it's been a little bit odd trying to make sure we get this help out there. But I've had tons of friends in the church office building that have also said, hey, if there's any connections that we can make in order to help foster a cooperative sense of assistance and so on and so forth, like, let's do it. And so sometimes it's hard meandering through bureaucracy. Other times it's not. I give nothing but kudos to people like Dave Butler, who just said, screw this. I'm doing it myself. I'm doing it privately. I'm setting up the GoFundMe, and like, good on him, and actually putting his nose to the grindstone and, rolling up his sleeves and actually just taking the small step that resulted in something great to make that happen. So, anyway, yeah, check him out. His name's Ben Kaiser. He's not just for looks, guys. He also writes, and he does a good job of it. So you guys can check him out there. If you want to support our channel and you're a person of means, please consider a contribution through Venmo or through Zelle, but only if and after you are done contributing to these GoFundMes. Then you can go to buy a shirt or a War in Heaven veteran hat in our merch store, or help us out with some goodies from our Amazon wish list. That's a great way of getting us actual physical items that we need immediately in our studio. That's a huge help. And also, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter yet, make sure you do that. It's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun for this and more. Please make sure that you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This
Later.
supersonic is amazing.